He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty.
Here we are, round two. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we got Donald Trump meeting with Mark Carney again in the Oval Office. More of the same. Got all the cameras out. What will happen here? Let's jump into this. First off, right away, we can see he brought Anita Anand, Melanie Joly, and Dominic LeBlanc. And since it is October 7th, the 2-year anniversary of what Chips and Hummus did to Israel, I wouldn't be surprised, I made this prediction on my previous video, that Donald Trump brings this up. This was timed because Mark Carney just recognized Palestine as a state. He's going to bring this up for sure.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's an honor to have the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who I have made very popular. He's an extremely popular Prime Minister. And I'm very honored to do it because I liked him right from the beginning. I've liked him, and we've had a good relationship. We have some natural conflict, but we will probably work that out. But we've had a very strong relationship, and your hosting of the various countries that showed up, that was a beautiful job you did, and I appreciate it very much. We're going to be talking about trade. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things. We'll certainly be talking about Gaza. We're in very serious negotiations to, I guess you could say, depending on the way you count, 3,000 years. You could say 500 years. You could say, but that it's been raging for a long time.
You notice when Mark Carney heard the word Gaza, he instantly dipped his head down and looked down. He didn't want that to come up. This was coming up. This meeting was planned on October 7th.
And I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East. It's something even beyond the Gaza situation. We want a release of the hostages immediately, etc. And so our team is over there now. Another team just left, and other countries, literally every country in the world has supported the plan.
Yep.
I don't think there's anybody that hasn't, actually, not that I've seen. There's a real chance that we could do something, so you may have some questions on that later. But in the meantime, we'll spend some time and we'll make some deals and we'll do some things that are good for both of our countries. And Mark, it's an honor to have you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. If I may, you kindly hosted me and some of my colleagues a few months ago, and I said at the time, you are a transformative president. And since then, the transformation in the economy, unprecedented commitments of NATO partners to defense spending, peace from India, Pakistan through to Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror, and now, and I'm running out of time, but this is in many respects the most important.
The
what
merger
you created
of Canada
no,
and the
what
United
you have created. That wasn't where I was going. On this solemn day of commemoration of the October horrific attacks of October 7th, for the first time in decades, hundreds of years, thousands of years, this prospect of peace that you've made possible. Canada stands foursquare behind those efforts, and we'll do whatever we can to support
Very
them.
nice. Yeah. Thank you, Mark, very much. Any questions?
This is quite the display here. Mark Carney came out with his speech to just praise Donald Trump. And what's even more interesting is Trump's joke there about essentially 51st state.
The merger of Canada and the United States.
That wasn't where it was.
You see him laughing here? He knows this is a joke. Liberals don't understand this. He doesn't actually believe that we're going to be merging. He's just using this as a negotiating tactic. His face says it. And frankly, I don't think Carney cares either way because he's invested in America.
What would it take for you to drop or lower your tariffs on Canadian sectors, including aluminum and steel?
Well, we're going to be talking about that with the Prime Minister. We'll be talking about tariffs. We'll be talking about a lot of that, but that's for a little bit later on. I want to just acknowledge our great ambassador. Is he doing a good job?
He's doing a good job.
Otherwise, I'll get him out of there so fast. No, you have a
Why has Canada and the United States failed to reach an agreement up until now?
Well, it's a complicated agreement, more complicated maybe than any other agreement we have on trade, because, we have natural conflict. We also have mutual love. We have great love for each other. I love this. I love Canada and the people of Canada. And Mark feels the same way about here. The problem we have is that they want a car company and I want a car company, meaning the U.S. wants a car company. And they want steel and we want steel. And, so in other countries, they're very far away, and there's no problem. You can compete and you can do. We don't like to compete because we sort of hurt each other when we compete. And so we have a natural conflict. It's a natural business conflict. Nothing wrong with it. And I think we've come a long way over the last few months, actually, in terms of that relationship. So when it comes to trade, the United States was always giving everything. They gave everything to Canada. They would let car companies leave here and go to Canada. But that hurts the United States. And, other presidents didn't see that. They weren't business oriented. They might have been good politicians in some cases, not in all cases. They were bad at both. But it's a very natural conflict, and it's something that we're working on.
So you notice here, Mark Carney's hands, that's not really a normal position to hold your fingers in, whatever he's doing there. And if you notice, every time he said Gaza earlier on, his palms and his hands would clench. He's nervous. He's very nervous. I mean, look at his hands. No one else has got their hands like that.
Compromise this summer. Are you willing today to offer some compromise to Canada, maybe on steel, on aluminum?
Well, we've made compromise, and we've made some compromise even on steel. But, we have the same basic authority and the same basic, this is going to be also a little bit of a conflict with other countries all over the world on steel, because we want to make our own steel. We don't want to bring steel in for the most part, but we will bring it in, and we do bring it in. We continue to bring it in from Canada, but there is a tariff to pay. And I think that would be a normal thing to say, but we've come a long way. I think, Howard, we can truly say, do you want to make a comment on that?
Well, I think the opportunity to work together, but as you said, there's conflict. Why do we make cars in Canada? You've called that out, and you've addressed that. So there are places we should work together, and there are places that we have natural conflict.
It's a tough situation because we want to make our cars here. At the same time, we want Canada to do well making cars. So we're working on formulas, and I think we'll get there.
You listen to his words there very carefully. It sounds like tariffs across the board, but his language does open up the possibility if there was a deal good enough for America, then tariffs would be removed. So I think if they really gave the biggest deal ever and just loaded up in one big package, they could get a deal. But once again, we don't have a guy representing Canada here. U.S. business leader went to China. I mean, who is he representing? U.S., China, like Ireland, the U.K.? Who does he represent? It's not Canada.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23%. In the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs?
Yeah.
And
well,
fear
I understand that. Look, I understand that. And Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada. I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't, it's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but, American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada. Now they're all moving back, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago. Yeah. We have over $17 trillion being invested now in the United States. As an example, Biden, he was the worst president we've ever had, but they had less than 1 trillion in 4 years. We have more than 17 trillion in 8 months. 8 months. And I think that number is going to be $22 trillion. There's never been anything like that in the history of the world for any country, not even close. If you did 1 trillion in a year, that's pretty good. We're going to do over 20. And it's coming in with AI. It's coming in with auto plants. We're building auto plants, a lot of auto plants in the U.S. It's coming in for a lot of reasons. It's coming in because of the fact, I think the November 5th election was a big factor, and I think the tariffs are a big factor. And again, we want Canada to do great. But, there's a point at which we also want the same business. We're competing for the same business.
Carney's body language here, he's so anxious, he's so nervous. I mean, Trump just keeps talking about all the wins that America's getting, whether those numbers 17, 20, whatever. It is trillions of dollars coming into America right now. A bunch of businesses are leaving Canada and going down. Carney knows that because those businesses, as I just said, are leaving Canada and going to America. We are not getting wins. We are losing big time with this guy. And essentially, by Trump saying that America's winning, it's calling out that Canada is losing. So that's why you're seeing his body language here. He's starting to move around. He's flapping his elbow here. He's biting his lip. He knows he's on the receiving end of this.
That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem is a very easy way. But we're competing for the same business. He wants to make cars. We want to make cars. and we're in competition. And the advantage we have is we have this massive market. So it's it's quite an advantage.
Next up, the reporters ask Trump about the crime in Chicago. Trump talks at length about Chicago, but then brings in Mark Carney here.
You would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner. You could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole where people would come from Canada, people would come from other places and end up getting shot. Nobody's being shot. The National Guard's been unbelievable. I mean, they are strong, tough guys. You know, we won something at the Supreme Court, which is a big deal, merit. Everything now in this country is merit-based. I didn't think I'd ever see it again. And we have our soldiers are merit-based too, and they're central casting. And they walk through that town, and I'll tell you what, this place is safe. It's beautiful. Now we're in Memphis, and the same thing's happening. You're getting the reports. The bad guys are saying, we don't want anything to do with this. And we're removing many people. In D.C., we took out 1,700 career criminals and sent them back to the countries from which they came, mostly led out by Biden and his people that had an open border policy. And, you know, Canada, you suffered because of that, too, because they'd come here and they'd go into Canada also. So we're like a buffer for that in terms of Canada suffered greatly by Biden and the open border, the policy of open border, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And these people were, you know, if you got 5%, 2%, now you were getting a lot of bad people. We now have a closed border.
The border
You've done well. We have a closed border.
He just had to try to throw that in there. What have they done? They said they're going to hire 1,000 border guards, and they've hired zero, absolutely zero.
And as you know, we've taken a very hard stand on drugs. This is also benefiting you. We've a lot of we call them the water drugs, the drugs that come in through water, probably saved at least 100,000 lives, American lives, Canadian lives, by taking out all those boats coming in. So it's and now they don't come in that way anymore. Now they'll come in other ways, and we're not going to allow that either. But to have a great country, you can't have crime. A question for the Prime Minister.
Mr. Carney, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd like to know how come the UK and the European Union have succeeded to sign deals and bring the tariffs down, and Canada still hasn't been able to do the same?
Yeah, because they're not located right next to each other. It makes it. In many cases, it's much better and easier. But
if I may, let's be clear about the relationship as it stands right now. We are the second largest trading partner of the United States. We do a lot of trade going across the border where we're cooperating, first thing. Secondly, we are the largest foreign investor in the United States. $500 billion in the last 5 years alone, probably $8 trillion in the next 5 years if we get the agreement that we expect to get. Thirdly, there are areas, as the President just said, where conflict, maybe not so much conflict, we compete. There are areas where we compete, and it's in those areas where we have to come to an agreement that works. But there are more areas where we are stronger together, and that's what we're focused on. And we're going to get the right deal for America, right deal, obviously, from my perspective, for Canada.
Including one thing that, wait a minute, easy, wait. So one thing where we are working very closely is the Golden Dome. That's the protective mechanism, and you see how that works. It's unbelievable. Ronald Reagan wanted to have it, and at that time they didn't have the technology, even close to the technology, but he was advanced, and we'll be working together on a Golden Dome for the two countries, and it's something that I think is going to be very important.
Mr. President, will Canada be leaving empty-handed, or will Mr. Carney be leaving Washington with a deal on tariffs? I
think they're going to be very happy. We have a lot of things that we're working on that people don't talk about. They talk about, competitiveness. She's a very competitive person. And they talk about things that we don't necessarily agree on. But I think they're going to walk away very happy. I think so.
That is quite the telling response. So Trump is ready to make a deal on something. Obviously, negotiation has been going on in the background here. So something is in the works. It must be the this missile system here. Lockheed Martin, that benefits Carney. This came out in the media. They said it's proposed. This could be wrapped in with the steel and aluminum. Maybe it's just steel removing the tariffs. Something is in the works here.
Signed, there's been a minimum tariff that countries have got. When the USMCA gets renegotiated, do you want a minimum tariff on goods between Canada and the US?
Well, we're going to have tariffs between Canada and, they have them with us. I will say with our farmers, as you know, they went up to as much as 400%, 250, 300, and even one at 401. We found one having to do with a very small product, but it was high. So we've always had tariffs between the two of us, and actually Canada was charging us very high tariffs on our agricultural things, a lot of our agricultural product. And that's one of the things that we talk about for bringing that down. So, this is a mutual thing, but we've been charged tariffs. Look, we're the king of being screwed by tariffs, just so you understand. And I'm not talking about with Canada. I'm talking about with countries all over the world. When you look at Europe, when you look at China, when you look at all of the, almost every country charged the U.S., we didn't charge them. Because we were led by stupid people in many cases. Stupid people. They took advantage of our country. They're not taking advantage of us anymore. We are the king of countries that have been taken advantage of for many, many years. We've been paying trillions and trillions of dollars and receiving nothing at all. As an example, prior to the deal with Europe, where they pay a lot of money, but they're happy and I'm happy. The deal was good. It's a fair deal. But it wasn't fair. You couldn't put a car into Europe. You couldn't sell your agriculture into Europe. You couldn't do anything. And now we have it so that it's open. We charge them tariffs. We didn't charge them tariffs a car. They charge us tremendous. I said to Angela Merkel once, I said, how many cars have gone to Germany from the United States? And she said, well, I don't believe any. And I said, you're right. You're right. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. And they're paying a fair amount.
That was a good question by American media there, asking about Kuzma. And it seems like if Carney doesn't play ball, then what's going to happen there? I mean, technically, the Kuzma renegotiation is to bring up, gripes and to whether to continue it. Currently, the agreement goes until 2036, if not renewed. So another 16 years, and they basically review it every 6 years. But I mean, with Donald Trump, I can see him just wanting to override the agreement, saying we're not going to continue unless we put tariffs or whatever it may be, even though that would violate the agreement. So what will happen here? Because he's very clear, he doesn't like the dairy tariffs. Mark Carney put in law to protect the dairy tariffs as they could not be negotiated just before negotiations. This is a major sore spot. Jumping ahead, the media asked Trump another question specific to America and the street fennel. But at the end of this here, Carney insists he jump in and get a word in on this one.
Better job than in the past. We have very few people coming in through our southern border, too. We've worked with Canada and we've worked with Mexico, so we've made it a lot better.
Look, 80 is too much. 80 is too much.
Wait.
I just, any amount is too much. So we've gotten it down. It's down substantially. It's less than 1%, but it's still too much. It's too much at home in Canada.
A lot of people.
Yeah, we got to stamp it out.
Just to be clear, that's 1% that they know of. That's not necessarily the total percentage, and we don't really check for it, so that's why we only know of 1%. But I mean, really, we've got Cocoa White Bam Bam facilities all over British Columbia. We've got street fennel facilities. We've got all sorts of facilities that send out this garbage around the world. It's being manufactured in Vancouver, in Greater Vancouver, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, wherever, and being sent around the world. Saying we've got it down to 1% is not accurate information.
USMCA, are the two of you both committed to seeing it through in the renegotiation of that deal that you made?
Well, we can renegotiate it, and that would be good, or we can just do different deals. We're allowed to do different deals if we want. We might make deals that are better for the individual countries. I don't care. I want to make whatever the best deal is for this country, and also very much with Canada in mind.
Yeah, that's very interesting response there. Make a new deal. Everything is on the table here.
Yeah, go ahead, please. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, on China, what work can the United States and Canada do together to counter China?
Well, you have to be able to compete. They're a great competitor, and Mark and I both know that, and you have to be able to compete. We have big advantages over China for lots of different reasons, and I think we're doing very well with China. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to be meeting him in a few weeks, as you know. I'll be meeting him in South Korea. but we've had a very good relationship for a long time. But you have to be able to compete. To do well with China, if you can't compete, you're not going to do well with China. And Canada is very competitive. I can tell you that. Canada is a very competitive country. And I think Canada's done very well over the years with China.
Yeah, we have. But we'll do better together on that.
Mr. President.
Yeah, we have. He campaigned for me during the election. Xi Jinping, I know him. He's a good business buddy. What? This is a joke. And right away, what does Carney try to do? Tries to praise Trump, hitch his wagon. Yeah, we'll do better together. This is a grovel fest. Is this elbows up? I don't think so. So jumping ahead here, one of the reporters asked Trump about some slowdowns or some blockades or something going on at the airport. And then he goes into a big rant. And then once again, he pulls in Mark Carney on this.
What they're doing to the country is so incredible. And they got away with it with all their woke crap. And now it's stopped. And we have a country that's based on common sense and strength and intelligence. I mean, we have the United States of America, and I say it all the time. Other leaders have told me this. Mark hasn't yet, but I think he would. A year ago, we were a dead country, and now we are the hottest country anywhere in the world. Maybe Canada. I'll give Canada, but because I do like Canada. But, you know, we're the hottest country in the world right now. There's never been a country that has the kind of money coming into it. There's never been anything like this. There has never been a country that if you take $1 trillion, that would be unbelievable. We're going to have over $20 trillion invested in this country. There's never been anything like what you're seeing. And it's based on good policy and common sense and leadership. Yeah.
All of which we don't have in Canada. You can see Mark Carney here knows full well that our business is going to America.
Mr. President, what is Canada giving you in return? If you say Mr. Carney is going to be leaving Washington happy, what's Canada giving you in return?
Well, you'll find out. But I think the people of Canada, they will love us again. Most of them still do. If you say only 25%, I assume a lot of them. I think they love us.
So there's a deal here. They've already worked out a deal in the background, and it's just ironing out the details and signing it, basically.
You know what? I'm not the biggest hockey fan, but I like it a lot. And I watched some of the greatest hockey games I've ever. How good were those games, right?
Yeah, very good. We're coming down for the World Series, Mr. President.
Oh, good. By the way, your team is looking pretty good.
President, will you sign a trade deal with Canada that doesn't include supply managed goods like dairy, for example? If the federal government.
Well, a deal would include dairy. I mean, it's going to include everything. We'll do a comprehensive.
Ooh, look at that body language. Let's look at Carney's face again. Great question. We need American media to ask these questions because Canadian media won't do it.
Canada that doesn't include supply managed goods like dairy, for example. If the federal government.
Well, a deal would include dairy. I mean, it's going to include everything. We'll do a comprehensive.
Wow. He was like, that was like a news to me face. That wasn't on the table. Look at his reaction here. Look at his face change as soon as Trump says it's going to include dairy, and Carney's face goes like he just saw a ghost. Look at him. This was not discussed. That is news to Mark Carney.
Is there anything that the Prime Minister has done that's making it more difficult or easier to reach people?
No, I think he's a great Prime Minister. I mean, he could represent me anytime. I will tell you, I'm not saying that because it's no. He is a very strong, very good leader. He's a nice man, but he can be nasty. He can be very nasty. Maybe as nasty as anybody.
How?
I think Canada. Let me put it this way. I can tell you this because I deal with lots of leaders all over the world. He is a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially, and I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So
Wow, that was quite the statement there. World-class leader. Won the election, more popular now, won it substantially. Now, Trump is a bolsterous guy. This is what he does. He embellishes things. I still wonder if something's going on here. Did these guys know each other before the election? Maybe this is something we'll never know. But I mean, if you're new to the channel here, I've got this whole section here with Donald Trump. And I have to update this now because, well, Elon Musk is not really in the picture anymore, but he was directly connected. I mean, he's actually rekindled that friendship a bit. They were seen at an event together recently. We've got Donald Trump connected to Mark Carney through various ways. Still don't don't know if they had a history face-to-face beforehand, but we do know that Mark Carney and Jared Kushner, which is Donald Trump's son-in-law, I mean, they're seen together here. They have a history with Brookfield, this bailout property, 666 Fifth Avenue. So Qatari Investment Authority, QIA, who Mark Carney just met with just last week in the UK, invested $15 billion in Brookfield. Brookfield then used some of that money, $1.2 billion, and helped bail out this Kushner property that was failing badly. Donald Trump then went on to ease the tensions with Qatar, with Saudi Arabia back in 2017 when this was all going on. And then you're seeing in return, the SEC is investigating Mark Carney for his green grift at GFANZ, Glasgow Alliance for Net Zero. So this net zero agenda that he rolled out is getting investigated by the American government because it seems like because it's a green grift and they're trying to force this on companies. Companies then didn't like this. They started opting out. They started getting out of this. U.S. government investigating Carney, which we see right here. And you can check out this for yourself, moosechart.com. And a lot of these articles, there's either a link here like this, it says source, or there'll be an icon in the top right. You can click on it. It goes to the source. And this one here, we can search Mark Carney and he pops up right there. According to GFAN's co-chair, Mark Carney, who testified to the committee in a transcribed interview, securing climate disclosures from U.S. companies is important for the achievement of net zero because it allows all climate cartel members to decide who to lend to or to invest to and who to avoid. The climate cartel uses the information gained through climate-related disclosure campaigns to score campaigns like ExxonMobil against climate action, etc., etc. So Carney got investigated for this. Then we've got Bruce Flatt, CEO of Brookfield, getting a letter from the United States Senate asking about 666 Fifth Avenue. You can see $1.2 billion. This is the Qatari money that is bailing out Jared Kushner's family's business. And Bruce Flatt says here, we're not going to send you anything. I write regarding Brookfield Asset Management's Brookfield's refusal to provide Senate Finance Committee information requested. Brookfield Asset Management protected Donald Trump and the Kushner business, Donald Trump's extended family here. So there's a lot of ties here. So when Donald Trump praises Carney like this, is this a favor, like trying to help him out? Did he bring up this whole 51st state here to help Mark Carney get elected? Because the give and take between Brookfield, 666 Fifth Avenue, Qatari Investment Authority, and Donald Trump, the Kushner property, like there's a lot wrapped up in here. Does Donald Trump just like to hype up every single person sitting next to him? Maybe it's just as simple as that. I don't know. But it's big praise despite our country getting crushed by Donald Trump and America right now. The tariffs are wiping out businesses, and then he praises the guy. It's a hard thing to analyze.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man too. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. That could have been.
I think you got that one.
That could have been. Thank you very much. Thank you.
These press conferences are an absolute madhouse. That reporter kind of walked into that. I mean, teed it up for Trump. Oh, they pulled out the camera here. So Tim Hodgson is there too. You can see him right here. Interesting. So his right-hand man is there. I was wondering. I'm not surprised that he's there. And if Carney stays in power for any longer period of time here and there's another meeting, I bet you're going to start seeing more and more of these Goldman Sachs buddies showing up on this bench here. I should note too, I updated the chart here and I made this public last night. It's just adding a few little details here, stuff like this. So I've got little icons now for people who've gone to Harvard and Goldman Sachs, and then you can just easily see that. So Tim Hodgson, Goldman Sachs, and then we've got Doug Guzman. This is Mark Carney's buddy from Goldman Sachs, and from Harvard, the chief executive officer on the Defense Investment Agency. So he's the one who's overseeing the purchase of this precision missile strike system here that Lockheed Martin will be building. So it's interesting, he's bringing in Goldman Sachs buddy to do this, and Mark Carney directly invested in Lockheed Martin. His stocks will most likely profit handsomely off of this. There's some other people too, like David Lametti, who is a Harvard hockey buddy of Mark Carney. I don't have David Lametti on here, and now that he's been shoved off to ambassadorship, I don't know if it's at any point adding him, but I've also added these guys too. These are all guys from Harvard. I don't know if Mark Carney knows these guys specifically from Harvard, but I'm adding them on here regardless, just so we have more information, because sometimes when you add stuff on and then later on it makes more sense, such as we're seeing with the whole Algoma steel situation. So
he's very strong. He's a world-class leader. He's a, quote, tough negotiator. He's a nice man, but he can be very nasty too, said the president, although it sounded more like praise than a an insult. And
you have to wonder, is Donald Trump saying this? Because there's so many things. I just pointed out all those connections, but is it just a simple fact that Donald Trump wants Mark Carney to continue to be in power because Donald Trump is cleaning Canada's clock right now? He would love to have another 3 years of Mark Carney where he can just clean Canada's clock, because Pierre Poilievre isn't going to let this happen. Pierre Poilievre wouldn't be combative with Donald Trump. He would just go in there and say, hey, let's work together and build more for both of us. He would work out a way, and he's already got multiple strategies. You saw in the last video, incentivizing American businesses to go to Canada, and then opening it up to Americans, say, hey, you guys need more critical minerals. Let us secure a deal for you so that you guys prosper and where we prosper together. That's how Pierre Poilievre is going to tackle this. Mark Carney only going to do projects that benefit himself, which is quite clear from the first tranche that he announced here, like the Red Chris mine. You know, this is owned 70% by Newmont Corp. And if we go over to Mark Carney's investments here, so there it is, Newmont Corp. Mark Carney invested in the Red Chris mine. He picks projects that are already en route that he can stick his name on, and ones that he's invested in. This should be against the law, but our ethics laws are so weak in Canada, he's allowed to enrich himself as Prime Minister.
He was asked then by a Canadian reporter, if that's the case, why can't you get a deal? And the president said, well, I want to be a great man too. But there were lots of hints throughout that impromptu press conference or planned press conference, given it's in the Oval Office, suggesting that something could be going to happen between Canada and the U.S. The president saying, I think they're going to walk away very happy. You'll find out.
Yeah, that's not even hints that something might happen. That means that something is already in the works. Unless Carney craps the bed, there's going to be a deal. So it's going to be a steel deal because that helps Algoma Steel. That's my prediction. I think that missile system is in there too. And I think Carney went down there because this deal was basically solidified, so then they can have the whole photo op of them signing papers and shaking hands and all that big photo op of getting a win, because Mark Carney wants those optics of getting a deal with Donald Trump. That's why he's down there. They could have just sent this over email and signed it, whatever, but he wants the optics to present it out to Canada because he's slipping in the polls. Carney is crashing in the polls, and he desperately needs a win right now. And maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he caved on something to get a small win just for the steel industry to try to help improve his optics without giving up the boogeyman of Donald Trump for his next election.